I'll take the official questions. There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete. And they're going to...
Right now, there's unusual activity taking place inside ESPN's main office. Disney leaders are conducting urgent discussions about the WNBA. The cause may surprise you. Several insiders are talking about one athlete whose situation has created a business problem that could change women's professional basketball for good. Why would the largest sports broadcasting company suddenly doubt their expensive commitment? What information came to light that made them rethink their decision? The situation centers on Caitlin Clark, though not how you'd expect. This has nothing to do with her skills during games. It's the circumstances away from competition that have wealthy business leaders worried. What are they observing that escapes our attention? Why do people close to the situation say ESPN feels caught off guard by the organization they recently backed financially? And here's the actual issue no one's raising. What unfolds when the corporation controlling sports broadcasting chooses their finished waiting? The reality involves more layers than current coverage shows. And upcoming developments might decide if the WNBA makes it through the coming 5 years. Let me explain what's actually taking place. This goes beyond conflict now. This concerns money. And when massive companies run out of tolerance, employees get fired, organizations lose financial support, and athletes, they lose their income. Let's examine precisely what's occurring in private meetings, why ESPN has stopped being patient, and what this signals for the WNBA's future. Let's step back briefly and discuss why ESPN has any interest in the WNBA to begin with. Because truthfully, before Caitlin Clark joined the competition, WNBA audience numbers were underwhelming. The statistics are clear. Viewers were scarce. Matches aired on lesser-known stations. The average sports watcher wasn't interested. Then Caitlin Clark was selected and things shifted dramatically. When Caitlin Clark competes, matches attract huge audiences. Her first appearances, historic viewer counts, contests with the Indiana Fever became essential viewing. People who previously ignored the WNBA suddenly started planning schedules, purchasing team gear, and packing stadiums. Information indicates ESPN leadership spotted this right away. They noticed the viewer increase. They watched online interaction skyrocket. They observed products selling rapidly, and they believed, this justifies our payment. But here's the complicated part. When Caitlin Clark sits out or isn't the focus, audience numbers crash dramatically. We're seeing a 60 to 70% viewer decrease when she's not competing. Matches without Caitlin return to pre-2024 figures that received no attention. Picture yourself as an ESPN leader. You recently spent millions on broadcasting privileges for an organization that only attracts viewers because of one athlete. And now you're observing that organization acting like she's replaceable. You're witnessing other athletes delivering rough plays against her. You're seeing officials ignore aggressive violations. You're watching the league head remain quiet when Caitlin faces targeting repeatedly. Would you feel satisfied with that purchase? People familiar with the situation say ESPN isn't satisfied. Far from it. Because they didn't spend money on a failing organization with unpredictable numbers. They spent money on Caitlin Clark. And if the WNBA fails to safeguard her, or even worse, if they lose her, then what precisely did ESPN purchase? Now, let's discuss what's genuinely occurring during competition. Because this isn't purely financial. This concerns an athlete being singled out, disrespected, and physically threatened while the organization remains inactive. Supporters have been recording every single occurrence, the rough violations, the arm strikes to the head, the aggressive language that goes too far, and what does the WNBA do? Nothing. The league head issues vague announcements about preserving the competition standards, but never acknowledges the clear issue. Caitlin Clark receives different treatment. Information suggests ESPN leadership has been monitoring these situations very carefully. They've observed the widespread videos of Caitlin being knocked down with no violation called. They've observed the after-game conversations where she must stay composed while everyone recognizes she just faced targeting. They've observed the adjustment period explanations being promoted by commentators who should be criticizing unsafe behavior. And here's what ESPN leadership grasps that the WNBA appears to miss. Caitlin Clark isn't simply an athlete. She's the commodity. She's why casual viewers are watching. She's why companies are reaching out. She's why the WNBA even enters mainstream sports discussions currently. But picture a situation where Caitlin receives major harm because of an unfair action that wasn't penalized. Picture if she misses significant playing time. Picture if she becomes so annoyed with the circumstances that she begins exploring different possibilities. People close to the situation say ESPN is considering these situations, and they're scared because if Caitlin Clark becomes unable to play, or even worse, if she departs, what occurs to those viewer numbers? What occurs to that financial commitment? The response is straightforward. It fails. People connected to the matter indicate ESPN has already begun calculating possibilities. What would WNBA viewership resemble without Caitlin Clark? And the calculations are harsh. We're discussing returning to pre-2024 numbers, possibly even lower because now the organization has been revealed. Casual supporters gave the WNBA an opportunity because of Caitlin. If she's absent, why would they return? This is when the disagreement becomes serious. ESPN leadership are apparently raising the question that the WNBA leader should have been raising from the beginning. Why are we permitting the only valuable resource to be harmed? And they're not receiving satisfactory responses. Information suggests there have been discussions between ESPN and the WNBA, not friendly discussions, not collaboration talks, stressful discussions, the type where legal representatives are present, the type where terms like contract violation and failure to protect the purchase are being mentioned. Because here's what many people miss. ESPN's agreement with the WNBA isn't simply about showing matches. It's about showing worthwhile matches. Matches people desire to watch. Matches that support the commercial prices ESPN is requesting. If those matches lose value, if the prominent athlete is benched, harmed, or pushed out of the organization, then ESPN has grounds to claim the WNBA isn't maintaining their side of the agreement. Supporters are guessing this is precisely where matters are moving. ESPN didn't spend all that money to show an organization destroying itself. They spent for expansion, for viewers, for Caitlin Clark. And if they're not receiving what they purchased, they can leave. So, what occurs if ESPN chooses they're finished? What's the extreme choice? They end the agreement. Now, clearly, this isn't straightforward. There are legal representatives involved. There are discussions. There are conditions and terms and all the legal matters that make these arrangements complex. But here's the truth. When a corporation like Disney, one of the strongest media businesses worldwide, desires out of an arrangement, they discover a method. And information suggests they're investigating their choices currently. Picture the WNBA discovering tomorrow and seeing a news story, ESPN to abandon WNBA broadcasting agreement due to worries about organization leadership. What occurs next? First, the funding ends. The WNBA's present television arrangement reportedly values around $200 million across several years. That funding supports everything: athlete pay, transportation, buildings, promotion. Without that payment from ESPN, the organization faces serious money problems. Second, other financial backers begin to worry. If ESPN is withdrawing, what does that indicate about the organization's future? Suddenly, other businesses begin reconsidering their commitments. Product agreements slow down. Entry purchases decrease because supporters believe the organization is failing. Third, the athletes experience hardship because when funding disappears, pay gets reduced. Advantages vanish. The vision of a lasting professional women's basketball organization, it returns to being a vision instead of truth. And here's the most difficult aspect. It's all avoidable. The WNBA could have safeguarded Caitlin Clark. They could have acknowledged the targeting. They could have clarified that unsafe behavior wouldn't be accepted. They could have appreciated the athlete who rescued their organization. But they didn't. People close to the situation say ESPN leadership feel deceived. They made a huge commitment in good confidence, trusting the WNBA would manage their operations professionally. Instead, they're observing an organization destroying itself from within while the leader acts like everything is acceptable. People connected to the matter indicate ESPN has already begun developing backup strategies. What would their sports content resemble without the WNBA? Could they occupy those broadcast periods with university basketball, worldwide organizations, other women's competitions? The response is yes. They absolutely could. And the WNBA, they can't simply locate another ESPN. There aren't several billion-dollar broadcasting companies waiting to show women's basketball. ESPN was the support system. If they leave, the organization might not continue. Let's discuss what the future resembles if this develops the way insiders are indicating. First possibility, ESPN remains but requires modifications. In this situation, ESPN uses the possibility of departing to pressure the WNBA. They require that the leader address athlete protection. They require that Caitlin Clark be safeguarded. They require modifications to how matches are managed and how punishment is administered. The WNBA, understanding they can't continue without ESPN, agrees. Standards get implemented. Rough athletes get suspended. The organization clarifies that targeting prominent players won't be accepted. This is the optimal situation, but it needs the WNBA to acknowledge they made errors. And considering how the leader has managed matters so far, that appears doubtful. Second possibility, ESPN decreases their commitment. Maybe ESPN doesn't fully leave, but they renegotiate. They reduce the payment amount. They show fewer matches. They place matches on less important stations. The WNBA continues, but in a reduced condition. Athlete pay decreases. The expansion progress halts. The organization becomes what it was before Caitlin Clark arrived, a specialized competition that fights for recognition. Third possibility, ESPN departs and the WNBA fails. This is the worst situation, but supporters are guessing it's not unrealistic. ESPN withdraws. No other significant broadcasting company enters with a similar arrangement. Financial backers leave. Teams begin closing. The organization either shrinks severely or closes completely. And the saddest aspect, it was all preventable. All the WNBA needed to do was safeguard their most important resource. But they selected politics and pride over operations. And now everyone experiences consequences. Here's the essential point. ESPN is an operation. Disney is a business. They didn't commit to the WNBA from generosity or social duty. They committed because they recognized a chance to earn money. And that chance has a name, Caitlin Clark. If the WNBA can't safeguard her, can't promote her, and can't develop around her, then ESPN has zero motivation to remain. The statistics are honest, the viewer numbers are honest. Without Caitlin, there is no commitment. Information suggests time is running out. ESPN leadership are observing. The leader needs to understand that moral posturing and official announcements aren't going to rescue the organization. Only one action will, protecting the valuable resource. Because if Caitlin Clark departs or gets pushed out, the WNBA won't simply lose an athlete. They'll lose everything. The payments will stop arriving. The operations will shut down. And the vision of a successful women's basketball organization will be finished. The decision is clear. Safeguard Caitlin Clark or observe the organization fail. What do you believe? Share your opinions in the discussion section below. And if you want to remain informed on everything occurring with Caitlin and the WNBA, hit that follow button because this situation is far from